Hello, everyone, and welcome to the birth of a new dimension. My name is Aurora. I call this show Birth of a New Dimension because that is literally what we as a planet and as a solar system and as a galaxy and as an entire cosmos or time structure are undergoing. We are undergoing birth, and I like to use that analogy or, whatever way of speaking about this instead of words that are about war and battle and conflict and all of that. Because even though we are under great duress and what we are experiencing can be very difficult at times and it can even appear harmful or, bloody, that the best analogy really is birth. Brief pause. Because in a war or in a battle, what we are doing is we're fighting in conflict against an adversary. And it's all about that dualistic opposition. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is all about non-duality. So if you are new to my broadcast, welcome, thank you for tuning in, and you're now going to get lasagnified. And if you are a long-term listener, thank you so much for continuing to listen each week. And I'm going to now say and play one of our favorite songs here. So this is all about the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. It's a shape, and it is also an oscillation or a movement or a verb that you can perform with your own genetic material. So the basic backstory of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is that I am an abstract presence when I'm not here in this body that has one face and two arms and two legs and walks around with a personality called Aurora. When I'm not here experiencing this, I'm an abstraction, like a pure energy or a set of colors and polygons emitting sounds, like I'm not an anthropomorphic shape at all. And I came into this anthropomorphic or human shape body by vibrating the genetic structure from its toroidal or donut-shaped energy format or shape or center into its next highest dimensional format. And that next highest dimensional format I named the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and you can see plenty of examples of it. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Please visit my website, flyingrainbowlasagna with an E on the end.com, or you can even check out the homepage, the banner for ucy.tv, this radio show that you're listening to. You can check out the Flying Rainbow Lasagna sculpture there, or you can check out on YouTube an original animation that I created called The Conception of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And an animation would be worth, a billion words, a trillion words, because the whole idea is this is not a static shape. That when you look at the lasagna sculpture, what you are looking at is the end result of a bouncing or an oscillating motion. And that bouncing or oscillating motion happens between these two poles that seem to be, polar opposites, like good and evil or light and dark. This is the sculptural representation of how seemingly polar opposites can actually be subsets of the same thing. And so, as I'm saying, if you use the language of war in order to describe the spiritual unfolding that we are experiencing, like to say, it's a battle, it's a war, this is what we're doing, it means that it has to be you against someone. You are fighting against your enemy, or you're fighting, your battles and everything like that. And words are powerful, and they definitely have an impact on our approach, and they shape our minds. And I really feel that we can use words to describe this in a much better way, because what we are really experiencing is, it might feel like you're in a war where you are good, quote unquote, and you are fighting against evil. What I really perceive is happening is we are achieving a higher perspective that puts the words good and evil into a new perspective. So I am not a demonic apologist in any way. I am not an apologist for evil, and I am not here to say, oh, good and evil, they're just two sides of the same coin and, quite interchangeable and easily exchangeable. No, because I am aware that in this time and place, it's easy for people to take the words of anybody. It could be a poet or, a visionary or anything like that. And it's easy to take one little snippet of what they spoke about and then apply it towards really malevolent belief systems. So I want you to know that the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is an uncorruptible program. If we were to look at the cosmos as like a giant computer program, even though I'm also not a transhumanist, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is an uncorruptible program. That means it's not like you can take this and diminish it or take energy or momentum away from it and distort it and turn it into something different. Because that maneuver has been applied for a very long time to keep humanity oppressed and other species oppressed also. It has to do with love. That love is this energy of the cosmos. It is like the gas that makes the car go. Love is like this currency, in the same way that on the surface of Earth, humans use electrons flowing in a wire to make electricity, known as currency. So love is really the currency of the cosmos. But there are some beings that cannot eat pure love, so what they do is they degrade it, they diminish it, they slow it down and distort it and take some of the purity out of it so that they can then make use of it. And that practice of doing that, I mean, love is really like we could think of it as the primary ray of all that exists. But then all of these other emotions become lower vibrational emanations of that primary ray of love. So in creating the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, first of all, it was not created as an intellectual exercise. Like I didn't make a bunch of sketches and, do some preliminary drawings and then eventually make it. I made it very spontaneously in the moment because it was what the moment needed. And essentially what I did was very spontaneously create a solution for all of this conflict. Conflict between good and evil, or these seemingly polar opposites, has been going on for a very long time and not just on the surface of this planet. What's happening on this planet right now is we are growing the antidote. We are like in a little petri dish. Petri dish is, cut off from the rest of the world. It's a little sterile area where you can grow whatever specific organisms or things you want to grow, fungi or yeasts or whatever. And Earth has been cut off from the rest of the cosmos for a pretty long time. Let's say, like 10 or 12,000 years. Including all of human recorded history. So according to the human viewpoint right now, there's no one else exists out there, it's just humanity. But that's not truthful. There are many other intelligences and many other levels or layers of intelligence that exist, but that Earth's surface humans are not presently able to effectively connect with them. And it's just like saying if you lived in an Amazon village, somewhere in Brazil or something like that, if you didn't have electricity or a phone or any connection to the outside world, you would not be able to speak with or share ideas with or get ideas or nourishment from anybody else who lived on the planet. And that is very similar to what Earth is presently experiencing. But it's an unnatural state that Earth has been blockaded in this way. And part of it is so that we won't receive all of the wonderful ideas and nutrients that would set us free from this enslavement or limited mental state. So that's one of the big lies, is blame the victim. It's saying Earth is cut off from the rest of the cosmos because you are somehow bad and unworthy, because you're full of fear or whatever. No. I can't stress that enough. No, Earth is worthy, very worthy of being connected to the rest of the cosmos. First of all, the rest of the cosmos is also infested with fear and with evil, which is basically users of technology. So I go into this quite extensively, and I speak about it casually now on the radio, and I bounce around. When I first started doing my online class, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, in 2013, I took this all very seriously with great responsibility, and I didn't begin to speak about the malevolent overlords or the occupiers of the interstices or the beings that limit human consciousness until lesson 18 of a 20-lesson course. Like, I got everybody first totally up to speed on the idea of unconditional love and non-judgment and perceiving, through our higher faculties, and then spoke all about how we were genetically degraded and why we are in the position of having to ascend or reascend from our lower levels of consciousness. Because it's a it's a story that is not a very pleasant story. It's like, oh, your planet has been invaded and you've all been mind raped horribly, and genetically raped horribly for thousands of years. And that's pretty much all of human culture and human history. It's not a very bright and pleasant conversation, and it requires emotional fortitude that when you hear this information, you don't fly off the handle or, commit suicide. So in the first years that I would share this information, I would share it really carefully, only with people who had been mentally and emotionally prepared for what I was going to say. And clearly we are now in 2017 and the entire landscape has changed, the emotional landscape has changed, and we now have a different sense of what is appropriate. It is now very appropriate for us to speak openly about this and to tell as many people as we can. Like, we're not going to be causing suicide or blowing anybody's minds so profoundly that they can no longer function. Because this information, it's not just coming from me. It's like if information is raindrops or water, this is a torrent that is coming from many different places. So many different places. Everyone from scholars that research ancient archaeology and that related to archaeoastronomy, like the positions of the stars relating to ancient monuments. Those people are starting to understand this. Linguists and other scholars and religious scholars are starting to understand this. And people who do their own seeking or questing, who sit in meditation and connect directly to, I like to call it the library of the cosmos, using your higher faculties. You can use your library card to check out books and read things about the cosmos. So I'm trying to say I'm not the only person that is speaking about this. I'm not the only voice. It's really a chorus or a whole band, and we're all singing about this. The idea that humanity is an amnesiac species, and I really put this down to severe trauma in the way that humans block it out. When people are in a bad car accident or a rape or something like that, if it's too traumatic to process and understand, it gets put into permanent deep storage. And I really feel that is what has happened on this planet with the events that led to the degradation of the human genetic code. That those events were so horrible that most people had to just put it into deep storage and just not think about it. And that's how we've been hobbling along for thousands of years. Well, now all of these memories are finally coming to the surface for the moment of healing, because we cannot leave these memories suppressed. It's like suppressing the trauma of war, post-traumatic stress disorder. And at a certain point, you have to unpack those memories and look at them. But we need to do it in a healing light, in the proper and correct way, so that we rectify the situation. You don't just, like yank off the Band-Aid and then not do anything about it. Well, what is going on right now on Earth's surface is all about yanking off the Band-Aid and actually doing something about it. And I try to keep these recordings not topical, like this is not like, the Tonight Show. I try to keep it universal so that you could tune into any recording at any time and find it to be relevant. But really, like, this is the recording that we are making or that we are listening to while the baby's head is coming out of the birth canal. Like, this is really the stage of birth that we are in. It's been many, hundreds of thousands of years up to this point, and just in the past 15 years or so, we have really been what I would say is in labor, like a woman that is in labor to deliver her child. And the child that we are delivering, the birth that we are having, is a new dimension. The new dimension is made of a new form of matter, and that matter is made out of matter that is imbued with, we could call it spirit or energy or consciousness. So some of those seemingly polar opposites, we've got light and dark, we've got inside and outside, we've got this sense of matter and energy. And a lot of that dualism comes from the teachings of science. Science was, in the Age of Enlightenment, a huge step up from the unenlightened superstitions of the time. And at the same time, science has also given more bars on the cage of consciousness. Instead of complete freedom, the bars on the cage, like you remove one bar and give another bar. So here's an example. Einstein was a brilliant teacher. He taught all about how quantum, at the observation at the quantum level affects reality. But Einstein also spoke about how matter cannot go faster than the speed of light. And that's not necessarily true, like that's a distortion or a limited viewpoint, but that many people embodied that. They ate the cake, they drank the Kool-Aid, they said, this is the whole truth, I'm swallowing it all down, and that created their worldview. And Einstein also gave us that equation that pits matter and energy in constant dualistic opposition. We have E on one side of the equation, and then on the other side, mc squared, that's mass and the speed of light squared. That means that, according to Einstein, we've got like a seesaw where the fulcrum is the equal sign, and matter is on one side and energy is on the other side, and they're constantly balancing back and forth. And this new dimension that we are all collectively birthing is the dimension that happens when you put matter and energy on the same side of the seesaw. And we do that through this portal or oscillation or maneuver that I call the flying rainbow lasagna. So bringing together matter and energy, or matter and spirit, or matter and consciousness. This means, or the significance of this is, that your mind and your awareness and your perception and what you're thinking and feeling, quote unquote, inside, now has a direct and instantaneous impact on what we call, quote unquote, outside. And we recognize that inside and outside are meaningless, arbitrary distinctions that have been created because of the membrane of our ego. And our ego is a fiction. It is not something that is truthful. It is a narrative structure that is temporal. It's temporary. It's like the outfit of clothes that you wear when you are submerged in time, but you don't take that with you. So this is another repeat for long-time listeners. The cell membrane. The ego is like a membrane that is analogous to the cell membrane. In evolutionary biology, before the cell membrane was created or invented, there was just a bunch of goo, like amino acids and, like salt and water and stuff. And it was alive, but it was not organized at the level of a one-celled animal. And as soon as the cell membrane was invented or created or thought of, that animal said, I am a one-celled creature, and this is my membrane. This is like my boundary, and all I have to do is care about what's inside of my membrane. I don't have to care about what's outside. I only have to metabolize what's inside. I don't have to do anything at all with what's outside. And this is analogous to our ego. When we come here as little human infants for about the first year of our life, and this is very rough and very general, mostly people are still connected to their sense of oceanic consciousness or universal or cosmic consciousness. But as the year or two of the first couple of years of life proceed, one's connection to the divine diminishes, the skull plates at the top of your head close, and one begins to develop a sense of self, like you begin to answer to your name. You say, this is who I am. You also develop a sense of you versus the world. Like if you touch your leg, you feel it, but if you touch the crib, you don't feel it. And definitely this comes down to like little babies sensing pain. If you have to learn what are the parts of you, what is the extremities that we would define as you, because those parts of you don't want to get like burned or stepped on or whatever. So this is just like the wordless part of our education is figuring out our own boundaries, where we stop and where the world begins. This is not evil or wrong in any way. It's not negative. It's very positive. It's very necessary. It's a necessary stage of development, but it's not the end stage of development. So that's what I'm trying to be here in order to say. Very appropriate for each one of us to develop an ego. And you're just like the cell membrane that says, I only have to metabolize what's inside my membrane. I don't have to metabolize what's outside. We do the same thing. We say, I take personal responsibility for me, for what I do, for what I think and say and speak and emanate. But however, I cannot take responsibility for everything that's outside of me, for all of human society or for the entire ecosystem on the planet, or dilating it out to the entire solar system, or dilating it out to the entire time field, that the ego says I'm only responsible for little old me. However, the flying rainbow lasagna and the mentality that we achieve when we go into this next highest dimension states that the inside and the outside are arbitrary distinctions. That really, when we get down to it, the outside is a reflection of the inside. so before the flying rainbow lasagna, a brief pause. I do these brief pauses to save my work so that it doesn't evaporate away. I once wrote this little short story about the people who have ovens in front of their eyes. And basically the idea is that all of the people of this magical place lived in a world that was made completely of batter, like cake batter, and that everywhere they looked, they saw cake, like solidified cake, not liquid batter, because they had ovens in front of their eyes. And I used this in the story as like a little analogy that our perception, like Einstein described on a quantum level, collapses the waveforms or the soup or the batter, the liquid possibilities of the world around us into the world that we perceive as hard-edged objects. So we are already engaging in this magical process of using, quote unquote, the ovens in front of our eyes or our perception to create reality. You're not just looking at a table. You're not just looking at the floor. You're not just looking at a window. You are actually looking at an uncollapsed sea of waveforms that you are creating with your perception into this view of the room that you are in, or the car that you're driving in, or the room that you're sitting in, or the bed that you're sleeping in. So as we begin to do, like, that's a hard concept to get across to a little tiny 1 or 2 year old child, right? This is why I'm saying the level of development that we go through in developing the ego in early childhood or infancy is very appropriate. And then as we begin to become more adult and more mature, it is appropriate for us to understand the next level of sophistication, which is that there is no distinction between the inside and the outside. And this is the beginning of magic, of understanding magic. But magic relates to quantum physics. So magic we would define as a transformation of reality with the mechanism not being overtly apparent. Like if I turn on a light bulb and it makes light, that's not magic because we know the light is coming from the light bulb. But if I just snap my fingers and all of a sudden light comes out and there's no light bulb, then you say, Aurora, that is definitely magic. There is something going on here that is not explainable. Well, the human mind and the human consciousness, or, however you want to define human, but our mind, our consciousness, our perception is very powerful. And we have the capacity to transform reality, like to shift or morph or distort reality. And we also have the capacity to overtly, flat out create reality. This is amazing. These are the things that are hidden from humans so that you do not get too empowered, so that you don't get too uppity or try to actually create reality. And I'm telling you about all of these things because we're in the symphony, we're in the cosmic symphony. And we need to play. And this is how we play. We play with our minds, hearts, spirit, energy. And the real symphony, the birth that we're giving birth to, is when we fully transcend those limitations of ego. And we understand we're working together like a big symphony. And the song that we're creating is called reality. Reality. So right now, again, I try to keep these not too topical, but however, we are in a political maelstrom since the United States elections in November of 2016 and the let's say behind the scenes emails that have come out of some high level government people. It has led to a huge citizens investigation movement. And it is, rather lightheartedly referred to as Pizzagate because it involves these coded references to pizza in the emails. And unfortunately, pizza refers to victims of human trafficking, of ritual abuse, of rape, and of murder. And this is a dark topic, I know. This is what we have to recognize and acknowledge and go through in order to get to the next level of our personal and social and planetary and cosmic development. Because I told you that how I used to carefully lead everyone in the class through lesson 18 until you finally get to find out the overlords and the way that they have harmed and limited human consciousness. So I'm saying this is all now so overt and out in the open because this is the de-occulting. If occult means hidden, and the people that derived their power from these criminal practices, and criminal not only in the sense of man's or human laws, but also in the sense of cosmic laws. They're breaking cosmic laws by intentionally distorting the time field. So I, again, used to get everybody all prepared with unconditional love so that you wouldn't fly off the handle if I tell you this, but we all now need to know about this very overtly, that for thousands of years, humans have been oppressed by a group of beings that use a form of non-terrestrial technology. And that technology is what humans define as magic, because you cannot understand that that is technology. And I'm not the first person that said this. Arthur C. Clarke wrote about this very beautifully. So the non-terrestrial races that use this technology, they are called Satan or satanic. It doesn't have anything to do with the Christian Bible, and I am not a biblical literalist. When I use the word satanic, I'm referring, it's like calling a breed of dog like the German Shepherds or something like that. Like, these are a specific group of beings, and they use technology as a compensatory mode because they do not exist in organic multicellular bodies like you and I do. I presume that my audience are a group of organic multicellular humans on Earth in a body that is similar to the one that I have. No, they house their consciousness in formats that are more like technology, and it could be described or imagined as like a giant server or a giant mainframe or a virtual reality, and also a type of cyborg that utilizes elements from the organic realm. So if you are a science fiction fan, if you ever watched Battlestar Galactica, the new series that was done, within the past 10 years, that had a space race called Cylons that flew around in what looked like clank metal spaceships, but when one of the ships was actually captured and studied, they found out that it had all of this integument inside of it that actually looked like blood vessels and lymph vessels, and it had its own DNA and its own consciousness. That is the type of technology that I am referring to. So forgive me if I'm using the cultural shorthand of referring to a science fiction TV show, but that is pretty much how these beings function. That you might even see a physical vessel, a physical ship in the sky, or an even anthropomorphic shape that has a head and 2 arms and 2 legs. It's necessary for you to understand that that is an artificially created vessel that might have some elements of biology inside of it, but they're hacks. They're hacked elements. So, brief pause. I call this a hack because when you hack a system, you don't create the system from its, initiation. You take something that is already pre-existing and you just kind of tweak it and change it and shift it and morph it until it does what you want it to do. It's kind of like one of those Food Network shows that's like semi-homemade. You start with a box cake mix and then add to it some fresh blueberries or fresh strawberries and kind of jazz it up a little. But you're starting with something that's already a box. And that is pretty much what these biological hackers are doing. So yes, I will tell you that there is a real creator. There is a real being that is so vast it is hard to even conceive of, that created molecules and atoms and photons and light and consciousness in this entire system that is so complex and beautiful and symphonic and perfect that we exist within. The beings that use these technology that would be defined as magic, they are not creator. They are much, much lower down the level of consciousness than that. They've simply taken the pre-existing elements of reality and changed them around. So these beings I also describe in my Galactic History webinar series, all about why they emanated themselves not on a bridge of love and this whole experiment that they have been doing. And the experiment has gone horribly awry, and we are not the first planet to be harmed. In our own solar system, we're not the first planet to be harmed at large in the cosmos. That these beings that need elements of the living, they're like scavengers or parasites. They cannot exist completely without energy from those that are alive. We are alive, you and I. We use food and love and life force energy in our connection to the stellar network in order to power our flight through time. But these technology-using extraterrestrials hijack the energy from people like you and I. They take that love and they degrade it. First they siphon it off, and then they degrade it into a lower level of energy that can be utilized by them. So it's also like saying they're computers that do not run on a love-based operating system like you and I and the rest of the natural world does. And the natural world, this is like all the plants and animals on the surface of Earth and the stars, the entire stellar network of consciousness. This is all natural. Like, we do not need technology. A photon comes off of the sun and it comes to Earth and it is trapped by a chloroplast and it creates starches, and then you and I can eat it and we can be alive. None of that requires technology. And the flying rainbow lasagna, again, this is a concept. It is not something that is a technology. You don't need to ingest any microchips or nanoparticles or anything like that. All that you need in order to achieve these transcendent states is basically what you were born here with. Your physical body and all of the energy that flows through your quote-unquote circuits, and your heart and your passion and your emotions and your own innate connection to the divine. So these interdimensional users of technology have learned in a very cunning way how to mine an entire planet. They mined out planet Malduk. It got destroyed. It is now the asteroid belt in between Mars and Jupiter. This is why I say Earth is not the first planet. You aren't in a petri dish quarantined away because it's not safe out there. Like, you're going to infect them out there. The whole rest of the planet, the cosmos rather, is already infected. But what's happening here in the petri dish is we are growing the antidote to this infestation of consciousness that has spread so very far. And that antidote involves the flying rainbow lasagna and transcending these difficulties and popping back out into your higher dimensional shape, like a pop-up book, going from a flattened two-dimensional state. And when you open up that book, the pages open up and create these wonderful structures. That is what's going on with your DNA. Human DNA has been degraded and flattened or squashed, not in its usual, unfolded pattern for about the past 10 or 20,000 years. And that change in DNA has changed the expression of human consciousness, like the amount and breadth of thoughts that you can think, how wide you can dilate your mind or what you can connect with. It has affected the human capacity to eat pure light. Hey, if you didn't know it, you're not actually supposed to eat bacon and eggs in the morning. You're actually supposed to eat nothing but pure sunlight. That might sound like a magical fantasy until you start to understand that that is very possible. If you were to, it means radically restructuring your physical body. So yeah, when I first came here into this body, P.S., I'm a walk-in, so I had this whole experience of coming into this body through the Flying Rainbow Lasagna portal, and when I first came in, I tried to just eat nothing but pure sunlight. I didn't understand I was in a transitionary phase. Our planet and my body and all of our bodies are in a transitionary phase where it is appropriate to eat both solid food and eat sunlight, which is the precursor or energetic building block of solid food. And that as we begin to do that, as I eat my food, I recognize that I am eating the thoughts of the plant or animal that created the food, and that's just one, stepping stone on the journey towards just not requiring any intermediaries. And when we no longer require any intermediaries, that means you can eat pure sunlight and support your physical structure like a clean solar furnace instead of like a steam engine belching out gas, then you are ready to jump off the surface of your planet. If you need a clank metal spaceship on board of a giant rocket ship to get out of the gravity well of your planet, then you are not prepared to go to another planet. And those are the types of beings that have come to this planet. And those are the type of beings that many very misguided UFO enthusiasts are like, abduct me, take me home. Like, no, people. Those are not the people that you want to have anything to do with. You want to have anything to do with the real experts. Real experts do star travel without a clank metal spaceship, without a spacesuit, without all of their food in toothpaste tubes. That's the whole point. You learn to eat pure sunlight. You don't have to bring all of your food with you in toothpaste tubes and poop into a space diaper inside of your spacesuit. The idea of doing so seems ridiculous, and it seems like people are not advanced enough. You're literally an infant if you have to go into space wearing a space diaper in order to catch your various excretions. And so what we are trying to do here while we're on the planet is to cultivate our consciousness to the point where we can leave in the right way. And leaving in the right way, first of all, leaving the planet is a happy and joyous thing that we want to do. We want to do it in the right way. So it's just like saying, hey, this is good. In ancient Atlantis, the antediluvian worldwide sophisticated culture before we got put into the petri dish, everybody ascended. And ascension is a very happy, joyous thing. It's pretty much leaving the planet. You fly on your own wings of pure love, using nothing but sunlight as your fuel for your journey. So it's a very wonderful, joyous thing. All of this happens through a transformation of the cellular structure of our body. So right now, if you are aware of carbon, the atom, has different forms, and when it is in the form that all of the molecules are all just jumbled up together, that's known as coal. And it's kind of black and smeary or greasy, and it's definitely opaque. If we take those same exact molecules and rearrange them into a perfect tessellation, tessellation means putting things together like puzzle pieces with no space in between. Rearrange those molecules perfectly, then what you end up with is a diamond. And the diamond is very hard. It's not smeary like coal. It doesn't crumble. And it's perfectly brilliant. You can see right through it. It's almost like it's made out of a different substance, but it's not. It's made out of the same substance, the same molecules, but they have been arranged in a new format. Birth of a new dimension means that we take matter and fully imbue it with consciousness, and we begin with our own bodies. You're the artist of your life, and your body is your canvas. And this is all about taking radical self-responsibility as we begin to dissolve that boundary of the ego. We need to take radical self-responsibility for what we are and what we send out, because literally what we are perceiving is creating reality. We are collapsing these waveforms, and we are doing it collectively as a whole. So you might say, I'm not responsible for the activities of, the United States government. However, you are one citizen, and you are part of a whole, and all of these citizens are collectively lending energy to it's like a mural. You're all graffiti artists. You're all spray painting on the same mural. Got to work together in order to create the image that you actually wish to create. So back to Pizzagate very, quickly, that this is the release of this information could be so profound that it could topple all world governments, not just the United States government and both sides, both the Republicans and Democrats who are both implicated in the evidence. It is really because the idea is that the United States State Department destabilized various regions around the world and would then create orphans and refugees that could be trafficked. And trafficking means it can mean selling adult human females in prostitution. It can mean selling children as sex slaves and prostitutes. It can also mean selling body parts, like selling organs like corneas or blood and other things like that. And this goes down to the satanic technology. Like I said, those Battlestar Galactica flying saucers that when they cut them open actually had a blood supply inside of them. These users of technology do not have their own source of spare parts. You are their source. When they need blood or they need energy, they get it from you and other living human and non-human creatures on Earth. That Earth is right now being farmed or harvested for raw materials or mined like the way you mine for gold. And they take the things that they need that they cannot manufacture on their own. And the final denouement that is meant like the most malevolent goal of these beings is to harvest your soul, your consciousness. And this is the part of you beyond if you no longer have a physical body, this is the part of you that you still have, and it's your connection to the divine and to creativity and to life force, and it's where new things come from, like new ideas. When I say new things, I don't just mean physical procreation, like you're going to pop out a new baby. I also mean like new songs. Somebody had to think of a new song. Somebody had to think of a new chord, think of new words to say along with those new melodies, or a new painting, or a new innovating any kind of contraption. The capacity to create something new. That is what these technology-based space races that are satanic, that's what they don't have. They're hackers or scavengers or co-opters that take what is already in existence and change it and suit it to their needs. So they would love to take a nice harvest of, millions of human souls and put them into, like, imagine a virtual reality where your mind or your consciousness is uploaded and you're continually emitting thoughts and emotions and energy and ideas. But those ideas are really for the purpose of serving these other people that have no creativity and they have no, innovation and no capacity to do that. Brief pause. So the fact that basically that the United States State Department has been used as an arm for this satanic technology, and that it's not just the United States, it involves allies across the world, many different other governments that were complicit with this plan. So the idea is de-occulting, bringing into light all of these dark practices. The only way that these practices were able to ever continue for as long as they have is that they've been hidden, and that most humans have been blinded and not able to perceive that this is really going on. So what is happening with creating this antidote in the petri dish of Earth is that there is a mass awakening. Everyone is recognizing, wait a minute, your energy is being harvested. Wait a minute, who's doing the harvesting? Wait a minute, what is the purpose for this harvesting? And then the final thing is finding an effective tool or behavior pattern or approach to consciousness that kicks the invaders out. And this is the antidote or the antibody that I have to offer to everyone, and that's called the flying rainbow lasagna. So I'm not a demonic apologist, and I'm not an apologist for evil, and the flying rainbow lasagna may not be twisted and distorted and used in order to basically say something along the lines of, evil is okay, like evil is necessary, evil is part of good. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. If you look at the picture of the flying rainbow lasagna, you'll see there are two pointy ends, and those pointy ends have like violet in those areas. And that's meant to be the singularity. And the singularity is single by its definition. There cannot be two of it. So what you're looking at with this sculpture is the singularity vibrating back and forth between those two places so quickly that it's as if they are in two places at once, but it's one singularity. But that singularity can have different energetic characteristics when it's in different positions. Like when it's pointing up, it can have the characteristic of containing total energy, like the totality of all energy and consciousness and awareness and light and everything that exists. And then when it flips to its seemingly polar opposite, it can display the characteristic of entropy. And entropy is total loss of energy. Like if energy is heat, literally molecular motion and friction, entropy is the loss of heat. It is the loss of molecular motion and friction. And it brings everything down to a very, very cold and frozen or motionless state. Literally, it is no longer moving through time. Something that's frozen, it doesn't move. It doesn't move through time. Interesting things happen when we bring matter and molecules down to that level of temperature. Just a fraction of a degree above 0 Kelvin, and Kelvin is the scale of absolute temperature, with 0 being total frozenness and no energy. It's total entropy. If you bring matter down almost completely to that point, where it's almost totally entropic, what matter does is starts to act in weird, funky, interesting ways. Creates a Bose-Einstein condensate. And this is super dense, denser than physical matter. And all of the atoms of the molecules start to smear on top of each other. And they start to act, instead of like they're individuals, they start to act like they are one atom. They achieve unity consciousness at the level of total entropy. So this is where understanding evil is entropy, this battle of good versus evil. If we think of good as any awareness that is moving in the direction of greater organization, greater intelligence, greater awareness, having more light, having more energy, having more movement, having more heat, that is energy. That is literally enlightenment and good. And if we think about bad, what we're really thinking about are beings that are blind, they are obscured, they are dark, they are ignorant. They are also the fatty deposits, the undigested emotional experiences of the cosmos. Like if you eat a cupcake but you don't do the exercise that you need to do, the cupcake gets turned into fatty deposits, and then it gets stuck on the interstices. This is what these personalities have done. They've made all sorts of mistakes in their life, but they have not been exposed to the universal solvent, which is love. Love, and people say water is the universal solvent. In many ways it is. Love is the universal solvent that washes away these fatty deposits or unlocks anything that is tangled. And so these beings that are acting in this chaotic way, they are moving towards entropy. To exhibit judgment and to say, no, 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 you have to act in a different way, is you're applying your own exercise regimen on someone else, and it is inappropriate. So again, I'm not a demonic apologist, and good and evil are not synonymous, and they're not the same thing. However, there are different directions that consciousness can be moving in terms of personal refinement, and some consciousnesses are moving towards super density. And what that means is, if we go by science's model, that there was a Big Bang and there were lots of stars that were coalesced and created, and that eventually stars will die and they will create black holes, and that those black holes are like portals through which all light and heat and energy and awareness exit this realm. And at a certain point, in about 13 billion more years, this realm, the physical realm that we're in, will become a cold, dark, frozen place, because all of the heat and light and momentum will leave through those black holes, and you'll be left with an entire realm that is that totally cold, frozen, entropic state. That's not evil. It is not evil or bad or wrong that exists. I'm trying to describe to you, this is like part of the recipe of the cosmos, or the basic time structure of the cosmos, and that some consciousnesses are meant to be frozen and to exist at that state of, total lack of movement. Like the cosmos is a refinery. Some aspects of consciousness are given more energy and more movement, and they're sent towards energy, and they're on the infinite journey. And some aspects of consciousness go towards total entropy, a total loss of energy, and being frozen and no longer moving through time. And we could think about this, like I think about this a lot. I mean, I hope you get an idea. Like what I share here on the radio, these are like the end results of my week of thinking about things. But I think about, what would God do? What would you do if you were God and there was some part of you or some part of God that wasn't supposed to be there? Like, what would you do with it? Like, where's the trash bin? What do you do? And even if you refine out all of the awareness and light and information, that you're still left with like these dead husks or, empty husks. And that's what matter is when it is not filled with light, awareness, consciousness, when it is not arranged according to this structure that it's supposed to be arranged according to. And I'm smiling because I'm going back to that loop where I was speaking about coal and diamonds, that your body is made out of matter, but right now it's closer to coal, even though you're not that bad. As long as you're alive, you have to be conforming somewhat to these perfect patterns. And the patterns, they're like music. They're wave patterns within your genes and within the structure of the cells of your body. So if you structure the cells of your body in the right way, and it requires a change in your belief system and your perception of reality and your behavior and movement and all of that, but if you do this restructuring, you can become essentially an indestructible diamond body. This is a teaching from the Far East. The diamond body is called the Vajrayana, Vajrayana. I think I spelled that out right. Sorry if I didn't. But Vajra, this is the thunderbolt from the Far East, the diamond body. I'm sorry, from the Far East. Apologies if I misspoke there. Vajra means diamond. So the whole point is, through self-cultivation and not through any application of external technology, the matter of your body can be changed from its present format and its present behavior into a new format and a new behavior. And there are, yogis and masters that have done this over the past couple of thousand years, like singular athletes that are doing their work on their own, or like singular virtuosos playing on their own. We right now, at this moment, this birth of a new dimension, we are doing all of this as a collective whole. It's really exciting because we are all an entire symphony, from the deep kettle drums all the way up to the piccolos, all playing together. And we are all, not just the humans, the grass and the microbes and the butterflies and the birds in the sky and the ocean creatures and the mineral realm, like even quartz crystals and all of the elements of, I'm thinking elements of the periodic table, like gold and silver, and all of those elements contain consciousness, and they're all part of the symphony. So we, on the surface of Earth right now, as our efforts to create this antidote in the petri dish to this infestation of consciousness, we are all working together. And that is a very big part of it. We're creating a planetary healing, or a planetary solution. And I hope that this is also a very hopeful message, that you're really getting that. The hard part is over. The hard part is when we had this difficulty or this crisis that was going unrecognized by everyone who was submerged in the crisis. Now you can really see what's going on. It's not a very pretty picture. Like, that's why I saved it usually till lesson 18, because it's not good news. Your planet was invaded about 10 or 20,000 years ago. Humans are totally enslaved. You're so enslaved that in many ways you cannot even perceive that you are enslaved. And how do you get free? And you get free not by drinking a magic elixir or ingesting a microchip or exposing yourself to some, magic field. Like, you have to, whatever, get inside of a magical, force field to transform you. No, you don't have to be any more magically transformed in a force field than to be in Earth. Earth is a person. Earth is undergoing this transformation. Earth has been going through these labor pains or travails for a very long time. And it is so wonderful and so hopeful that we as humans are now understanding that we play a role. When a baby is coming out of its mother, it's a partnership. It's not like the baby is stupid or unaware or dead or something like that. The baby is twisting its head and its neck and squirming and trying to move its shoulder and trying to get into position. And the mother is also stretching and, contracting and trying to help it to go out. So our planet is the mother, and we are the baby, and we are working together with our mother. So the real birth will be when we all achieve that capacity to eat nothing but pure sunlight and cultivate our own starship, like your star vessel. It's your individual body, but you also should travel with a group, stay with the group class. That's, I'm joking. It's like, kids in school, stay with the group class. But it's really quite something to try to travel individually across these vast distances and vast times and consciousnesses. It's good to have a group to be with. And that's what we are really doing. We are creating a soul migration where each one of us is doing our own exercises, and you do your own training, you do your own workouts at the gym, and then we assemble the way that the runners do, like for the Boston Marathon or the New York Marathon, and then we all run together. And this is not about whether one person runs faster or, who. It's because there's so much competition programmed into this level of society, and there's so much religious competition in having a messiah complex. That's what you just got to understand. When people start to develop a messiah complex, it's like the ultimate in competition as opposed to collaboration. It's saying, I need to win. I need to win the battle of, spiritual advancement. All of you lose and I win and I get to be the messiah. This is paraphrasing, of course. And I consider to be real winning when we all play together like this beautiful symphony. When we all play the right notes together and the music sounds beautiful, I consider that to be winning. So when people reach a certain level of their inner development, they tend to say, I am the Messiah. And it's true, you are the Messiah, along with all of these other people that are also here. It's like saying, if I play this note, I am the musician. I am the musician, and you are the musician too. I am the auteur of my own reality, like the scriptwriter and director and producer of my own, life stage play. And you are the author of your own reality. And I would never paint on someone else's painting. I would never tell you how to make your body work right, how to achieve your levels of optimum health, how to arrange the molecules of your body in order to create your indestructible diamond body. I would never tell you how to do that. What I can share is my personal approach. It's like if I were a marathon runner, I could say, here's how much protein I eat, and here's my stretches that I do, and here's how many miles I run, and here's my footwear. Here's my favorite shoes and socks. But it's not appropriate for me to say you all have to wear the same shoes, because you might have different feet. You might need different arch support. You might have different dietary requirements. So each person has to find their own path. And also, when you flying rainbow lasagna, that does not make me your overlord. No, not at all. When you flying rainbow lasagna, it means that you connect with the source of consciousness, or that, higher dimensional singularity. It's like plugging in directly to God consciousness or divine consciousness, where you get your own inner directives. And this totally bypasses any kind of external authority figure, not a mommy or a daddy or a teacher or a boss or a person in the government, a president or senator in the government. That it's just like being a visionary artist or a musician or even an athlete, a person that totally follows your own inner directive. And when, I paint the paintings that I need to paint, I use the colors that I know I need to use. I don't do them because a boss tells me paint something red today or paint something purple today. And that's very similar to many athletes. If you're not a professional athlete, if you're like, I just really need to run 15 miles today, that it's not your boss telling you to do that. It's your inner directive. These spontaneous expressions of creativity are our own innate connection to the divine source of consciousness. And it's totally not by accident that human society appears to be set up to inhibit these spontaneous individual expressions of creativity. Like, hey, you can't run 15 miles today because you have to go work your stupid job driving a truck. And it's like, yes, this is the whole point. Why so many people are like, I wish I could just do my art today, or just do my music today, or just approach my day in a way where events flow seamlessly together, as opposed to where I have to serve an external authority or overlord. All of this is changing and shifting. This is what the birth is. So I would definitely say the head is coming out of the birth canal. And what this means is that each one of us as humans are beginning to wake up to our capacity to affect and transform supposedly external reality. It's not external. It's your inner world is being painted externally around you. We are painting on this beautiful mural that is called reality. So reforming government corruption and de-occulting the satanic technology that has been hijacking human consciousness for 10,000 years, that's all part of us collaborating together. And I'm actually very gratified. It's a beautiful painting. We're doing a really good job. Let's keep playing this beautiful music together. Let's keep giving birth to the new dimension. Thank you for everyone who's with me on this journey.